Have you ever felt like you're trapped in a nightmare that doesn't end? A storm you can't escape, no matter how hard you try. You've worked hard, prayed harder, and held on to hope. Yet, no matter what you do, your plans collapse, your peace shatters, and every step forward feels like 2 steps back. Today, we're stepping into the shadowy realm of curses. Yes, curses. Those whispered words, unspoken wishes, or ancient chains that can bind a life in chaos. We'll uncover 5 disturbing signs that a curse might be the invisible force wreaking havoc on your life. But first, let me tell you a story. Victor was a man like any other, focused, determined, and full of dreams. He had worked for years to build his career, nurture his relationships, and carve out a life he was proud of. People admired him. He had charm, charisma, and a heart that loved helping others. Then one cold November morning, everything changed. It began with a string of odd, inconvenient events. His car wouldn't start, leaving him stranded on the way to a life-changing meeting. No big deal, he thought, shaking it off. But that was only the beginning. A week later, Victor got devastating news. The promotion he'd worked tirelessly for had gone to someone else. The reason? A technical error had excluded his name from the shortlist. A glitch no one could explain. Within days, Victor began noticing a pattern. His life seemed to spiral out of control, each misfortune worse than the last. His credit card was suddenly overdrawn, though he was meticulous with his finances. Appliances in his home broke down in quick succession. Then his health took a mysterious turn. Victor's sleepless nights started as mild insomnia but quickly worsened. He would wake up drenched in sweat, his heart pounding as if he'd just escaped a nightmare. But the strangest part? He couldn't remember dreaming. That's when his grandmother visited. She was a sharp, wise woman, with eyes that seemed to pierce through your soul. After listening to Victor recount his troubles, she looked him straight in the eye and said something that chilled him to the bone. "This is not bad luck. This is a curse." Victor laughed nervously, brushing off her words as superstition. A curse? In this day and age? It can't be true. But deep down, the idea gnawed at him. Could she be right? Before we dive into the signs, let's clear something up. A curse isn't just a spooky tale from old folklore. In its simplest form, a curse is a negative spiritual force, spoken, thought, or invoked, that disrupts your life. Curses can come in many forms: words spoken in anger, jealous thoughts from someone close, even generational patterns passed down like invisible chains. But how do you know if what you're experiencing is just a streak of bad luck or something far more sinister? Let's dive into the first sign. Sign number 1, repeating cycles of misfortune. Picture this: you're trying to climb a ladder, but every time you get close to the top, you slip and fall over and over again. Does this sound familiar? For Victor, this was the first clue that something was wrong. His troubles weren't random. They were eerily repetitive. Every relationship he invested in ended in heartbreak. Every financial gain seemed to vanish overnight. He even began to notice patterns in the dates. Misfortunes always struck around the same time each year. Repeating cycles of misfortune aren't just frustrating. They're a warning. It's as if life is stuck on replay, forcing you to endure the same pain, the same loss, the same failures. Here's the chilling part. A curse often operates like a program, running in the background of your life, sabotaging every step you take. Victor's life began to crumble under the weight of these endless cycles. He tried everything: self-help books, therapy, even motivational seminars, but nothing worked. And then, the inexplicable started to happen. One night, as Victor sat alone in his dimly lit living room, the lights began to flicker. At first, he chalked it up to faulty wiring, but then he heard it, a faint whisper like someone calling his name. He froze, his breath caught in his throat. When he looked over his shoulder, no one was there. Could this be happening to you? Think back over the past year. Have you noticed patterns of loss, failure, or pain that seem too precise to be random? If so, you're not imagining things. This could be the first sign of a curse at work. But don't look away just yet. This is only the beginning. The deeper we go, the darker it gets. We're about to uncover more disturbing signs. Stay with me, because understanding these signs is the first step to breaking free. You've seen the cracks in the surface, those patterns of misfortune that keep repeating, pulling you deeper into despair. But what happens when the cracks become chasms, and reality itself begins to feel wrong? Victor thought his struggles were just bad luck, a series of unfortunate coincidences. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, something darker began to reveal itself. We are about to delve into the next 3 signs that your life might be under the shadow of a curse. These are the signs that unsettle your soul, make your skin crawl, and force you to question everything you thought you knew about the world around you. Sign number 2, mysterious health problems. Victor was always healthy, an avid runner, a clean eater, and someone who rarely caught even a cold. But as the cycles of misfortune in his life continued, his body began to betray him. It started with exhaustion. No matter how much he slept, he woke up feeling drained, like something had siphoned his energy during the night. Then came the headaches, blinding, pulsating pain that no medication could touch. But the most chilling moment came one morning when Victor looked in the mirror. His skin was pale, almost translucent. Dark circles hung under his eyes like shadows. And then he saw it, what he swore was a handprint on his shoulder. A faint, bruise-like mark, as if someone, or something, had gripped him while he slept. He tried to dismiss it as an accident, maybe something he'd leaned against, but deep down he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Physical health problems are often one of the clearest signs of a spiritual curse. While science and medicine explain much, there are cases where symptoms defy logic. Doctors can't find the cause. Tests come back inconclusive. Have you ever felt a sudden weight on your chest for no reason? Or a persistent illness that no treatment can cure? In many cultures, curses are believed to drain life energy, manifesting in the physical body as unexplained ailments. These are not mere coincidences. They are warnings, signals that something is deeply wrong. Victor's mark wasn't the only sign he ignored. Sign number 3, disturbances in your environment. Victor's apartment was his sanctuary, or so he thought. But after his health began to decline, he started noticing things. Little things at first. The temperature in his home would drop suddenly, even though the heating system was working perfectly. Lights flickered no matter how many times he replaced the bulbs. And then there were the noises. At night, as he lay in bed, he would hear faint tapping. Sometimes it came from the windows, other times from the walls. It was soft, almost rhythmic, like someone drumming their fingers just out of reach. One night, the tapping stopped, but what followed was worse. Victor woke up to the sound of his bedroom door creaking open. He froze, his heart pounding in his chest. When he turned to look, the door was wide open, but no one was there. He told himself it was the wind, even though the windows were shut tight. But deep down, he knew the truth. Something or someone was trying to get his attention. One of the most unsettling signs of a curse is disturbances in your environment. It's as if the curse warps the energy around you, creating a sense of unease wherever you go. Have you ever walked into a room and felt an overwhelming sense of dread, as if the air itself were heavier? Or noticed objects moving from where you left them without explanation? Curses don't just attack the person. They poison the space around them, making even the safest places feel unsafe. For Victor, his sanctuary had become his prison. And yet, the worst was still to come. Sign number 4. Dreams that haunt your waking hours. Victor's nights became battlegrounds. Sleep was no longer an escape. It was a torment. At first, his dreams were simply strange. Vivid images of places he'd never been, faces he didn't recognize. But soon they took a darker turn. One recurring dream haunted him most. In it, he was standing in a vast, empty field under a blood-red sky. A figure stood in the distance, cloaked in shadow, motionless yet watching. Every time Victor tried to move closer, the figure would vanish, only to reappear behind him. The worst part? He would wake up screaming, convinced the figure was still there, lingering in the corners of his room. In many traditions, dreams are seen as windows to the spiritual world. They can reveal truths, warn of dangers, or, in the case of curses, serve as a playground for torment. Recurring nightmares, especially those involving shadowy figures or feelings of being chased, are often linked to curses. They're not just dreams. They're attacks designed to wear you down, body and soul. Victor's nightmares weren't just in his head. They were messages, warnings that he was in the grip of something far beyond his control. Victor's breaking point came one stormy night. Exhausted from lack of sleep, plagued by mysterious health issues, and terrified of his own home, he decided to confront whatever was haunting him. He sat in his living room, surrounded by flickering candles, and spoke aloud, "Whatever you are, show yourself." The room fell deathly silent. Even the storm outside seemed to pause. And then a whisper, faint, almost inaudible, but unmistakable. "Leave." Victor's blood ran cold. The candles flickered violently, and the room plunged into darkness. When the lights returned, he found himself alone. But the message was clear. Could this be happening to you? Victor's story is a chilling reminder of how curses can infiltrate every aspect of your life. Your health, your home, even your mind. Have you experienced strange disturbances in your home? Dreams that leave you shaken, even after you wake? So you're not alone. But there's more you need to know. In the final part of this series, we'll uncover the final sign of a curse and reveal the most important step you can take to break free. Because no matter how dark things get, there is always a way out. Ask yourself this: if the walls around you could talk, what would they say? Would they tell stories of peace and protection, or whispers of something far darker? Victor learned the answer too late, but you don't have to. There's a moment when fear becomes something else, when it grips your heart so tightly that it whispers, "You can't escape." But what if I told you that whisper is a lie? Victor was at his lowest point. He had lost his health, his peace of mind, and even his trust in the safety of his own home. But the final sign of a curse? That was the one that shattered him completely. We're about to uncover the last and most devastating sign of a curse, and we'll explore how Victor fought back, not just for his life, but for his soul. Sign number 5, isolation and rejection. Victor always prided himself on his close friendships and strong family ties. His circle was his foundation, the people he could lean on when life got tough. But as the signs of the curse grew stronger, those bonds began to unravel. It started subtly. Friends stopped answering his calls. Text messages went unanswered. Invitations to gatherings mysteriously dried up. Even his co-workers began to keep their distance, whispering behind his back about his bad energy. The worst blow came from his family. Victor's sister, whom he adored, accused him of bringing negativity into her home after he spent a weekend visiting her family. She claimed her children started having nightmares after he left and told him he wasn't welcome anymore. Victor was heartbroken. He felt like a leper, cast out and condemned. He couldn't understand why the people who once loved him now saw him as a burden or worse, a threat. One of the most painful signs of a curse is the way it isolates its target. This isn't coincidence, it's deliberate. Curses thrive on loneliness. They sever connections, ensuring their victims are left to face their torment alone. The energy surrounding the cursed person becomes so toxic that it repels others, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of rejection and despair. Victor's isolation was the curse's way of breaking him. But what the curse didn't anticipate was the strength Victor had yet to uncover. One night, sitting alone in his darkened apartment, Victor did something he hadn't done in years. He prayed. It wasn't a formal prayer. It was raw, desperate, and full of anger. "Why is this happening to me?" he shouted. "What did I do to deserve this?" The room felt heavy, as if the very walls were listening. But as Victor sat there, waiting for an answer that didn't come, something inside him shifted. He realized he couldn't rely on anyone else to save him. If he was going to break free, he would have to take the first step himself. Breaking a curse isn't easy, but it's not impossible. Victor's journey began with 5 crucial steps. These steps may seem simple, but they require courage, faith, and a willingness to face the darkness head-on. Step 1. Identify the source. Victor began by retracing his steps. He thought about the moment when his life started to spiral. Was it the argument with his former boss? The strange artifact he brought home from a trip? Or something more subtle like a grudge someone might be holding against him? The first step to breaking a curse is understanding where it came from. Curses don't appear out of nowhere. They are born from intent, whether malicious or accidental. Step 2. Cleanse your space. Victor realized his apartment was saturated with negativity. He began by physically cleaning every corner, discarding items that felt off or brought back bad memories. Then he moved to spiritual cleansing. He lit candles and burned sage, a ritual he found comforting, even if he wasn't entirely sure it would work. He spoke words of affirmation, reclaiming his space. "This is my home, and no darkness is welcome here." Step 3. Seek spiritual guidance. Victor sought out a spiritual mentor, a trusted pastor who had experience dealing with such matters. Through prayer, counsel, and scripture, he began to understand that the battle he faced was not just physical or emotional. It was deeply spiritual. One verse stood out to him: "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." Isaiah 54 verse 17, it became his mantra, a declaration of faith that he repeated daily. Step 4. Forgiveness and release. Perhaps the hardest step for Victor was letting go of anger. He carried so much resentment toward his estranged friends and family, the universe, and whoever or whatever had cursed him. But forgiveness isn't about excusing bad behavior. It's about freeing yourself from the chains of bitterness. Victor began to pray for those who had hurt him, releasing them from the grip of his anger. Step 5. Rebuild with intention. Finally, Victor focused on rebuilding his life. He reconnected with old friends, explaining what he'd been through. Some relationships were beyond repair, but others flourished, stronger than ever. He also began to protect himself spiritually, surrounding himself with positive influences and setting boundaries with people who drained his energy. It wasn't an overnight transformation. The shadows didn't vanish immediately, and the curse didn't break with a single prayer. But day by day, Victor felt lighter. His health improved. The nightmares stopped. The strange disturbances in his apartment ceased. And most importantly, he no longer felt alone. Victor learned a powerful lesson. Curses may be strong, but they are not unbreakable. With faith, determination, and the right tools, anyone can reclaim their life. Could this be your story? As Victor's story shows, curses thrive in secrecy and fear. They isolate, torment, and destroy if you let them. But the truth is, you are stronger than any curse. The power to break free lies within you, waiting to be unleashed. If you've recognized any of these signs in your own life, take heart. Victor's journey proves that even the darkest shadows can be overcome. Now, let me ask you this. What would you do if you discovered that your greatest battle wasn't against the world, but against an unseen force determined to see you fail? Would you fight, or would you let it consume you? Victor made his choice. What will yours be? If you're ready to break free from every curse, type in the comments, "I am free in Jesus' name." If you found this content valuable, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking discussions. Until next time, God bless you.